So the medium is the message. Marshall McLuhan, a University of Toronto professor, coined this term decades ago. People have grappled with what this means. Simply, the form in which we receive information influences our perception of information and how we receive it, how we process it, and how it shapes our understanding of society itself. Before the advent of social media, we received our information and news through radio, newspaper, and television. When I think back, the 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock news was the biggest way we consumed information and the world and what was happening around us. Journalism was critical in shaping our perception and our understanding of events, essentially our version of our history. Today, with blogs and Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat, websites, Vines, Instagram, one might ask, is journalism still relevant? Will journalists become obsolete, or will their roles in society be phased out, similar to the shrinking markets for travel agents? Well, I would argue that the role of journalism, excellent journalism, today is more important than ever. Why does it matter more than ever? Precisely because the various mediums from which we consume information. In today's world, things last a few seconds, like Snapchat, or the information is shared and limited by 140 characters. People want the story, and they want it now, in bite-sized pieces, and they want to be able to consume, process, and chew out a response, be it a tweet, a post, a blog, whatever, relatively quickly. So again, you may say, Georgette, why does journalism matter? Well, I would argue that good journalism is absolutely critical in shaping our understanding of important stories and the history that is being created. Good journalism is pivotal to sharing the global village we are today in a thoughtful, fair, and balanced way. Good journalism calls out inaccuracies made by those with a voice and sets the record straight. Let me give you an example. Donald Trump. Yes, the Donald. If any of you are following the US election campaigns, you would know he's leading in the polls as a Republican candidate. And what is troubling to a Canadian like me is that his popularity grows the more outrageous and divisive his comments become. Whether it's to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out, or to bar any Muslim from coming to the United States, his public statements have resonated around the world. Now, good journalists would press Mr. Trump not only on how he would implement these plans, but rather how they would align with the Constitution of the United States and basic human rights. I wanted you to take a moment and reflect on how the media and people would have reacted if instead of Muslim, Mr. Trump replaced that with another religious affiliation. What do you think the reaction in the United States would be? Would the response be the same? Candidates and politicians share their dismay and disapproval, yet his support continues to grow among middle-aged white people who are trying to make sense of the changing world around them, or so the reports say. So sadly, the focus in the media has been on sensationalizing what sells and less about depth, facts, knowledge, and acknowledging the coverage of the story as an extension of how Americans are being perceived around the world. The lack of pushback on such comments raises many issues about bias, both conscious and unconscious, embedded in the social fabric of the United States. It also points to the lack of good journalism in places, because in today's fast-paced, Insta society, we need to know the story so we can move on to the next 140 characters. So it sounds like social media is pretty influential in our life today. Or is it? In 2010, Malcolm Gladwell, another University of Toronto professor, published an article in The New Yorker about the role of social media on revolutions and its true impact. In other words, many outlets credited the Arab Spring and other civil rights demonstrations around the globe with social media's ability to galvanize people around a cause. Gladwell argued that this was not the case, but rather, quote, social media activism succeeds not by motivating people to make real sacrifice, but by motivating them to do the things people do when they are not motivated enough to make a real sacrifice. This view has been debated by academics and journalists alike. Interestingly, researchers from Indiana University randomly sampled 25,000 Occupy tweeters and analyzed their relationships to one another before and after the movement started. And those on Twitter who were actively participating, they concluded, tended to be highly interconnected users with pre-existing interests in domestic politics and foreign affairs. So is Gladwell right? Or is it that the instruments of social media are well suited to making the social order more efficient? Efficient or not, journalism and the role of the media is critical, absolutely critical, to ensure the lens in which we decipher information through the mediums of social media are clearer and more polished. Today, Canadian universities educate hundreds and thousands of students each year. The University of Toronto boasts an enrollment of 80,000 students on all 3 campuses, and we pride ourselves in our ability to graduate outstanding men and women with the skill set to learn, analyze, assess, and becomes before them. We also have excellent programs in journalism and in writing. For example, at the University of Toronto Scarborough, our Department of Arts, Culture, and Media offers a number of opportunities to learn. UTSC offers joint programs of study with Centennial College and offers the best of theoretical and the practical. The programs focus on critical thinking, research, ethics, writing, communication skills needed to examine the changing issues concerning news, media, journalism, and society. We also offer media studies, which provide students with theoretical tools to aid understanding of the history and growth of media, how media industries varies and manufacture and manage information, and what the increasing predominance of visually communicated information means for contemporary society and the understanding of self. And the new media studies explores the effects of digital technology on traditional forms of media, as well as how new forms of cultural representations are created, consumed, and shared. These programs demonstrate the need and continued significance of journalism as a career path. So tonight I was asked to speak to you about the importance of journalism and the role the media plays in our community and our society. Underlying all of this is the importance of individual human behavior and our particular and individual ability to be responsible and to lead. An area of interest and research for me is leadership, and in particular, what leadership will look like in the next 50 to 100 years. Leadership is often defined by skills and traits, being smart, articulate, visionary, decisive, confident, entrepreneurial, etc. I would share that leadership is a developmental journey and an evolution where, as a great leader, the people around you are inspired, engaged, and give their best to stretch, to achieve, and to excel. And as we reflect on the current elections, the photo ops of senior delegates discussing climate change, ISIS, the economy, equity, and diversity issues, I would ask you to take a closer look at who's in these photos and the roles they'll play and how that snapshot in time will look a little different in the next 50 years. Consider the German Chancellor Angela Merkel was just named Times Magazine Person of the Year. Ms. Gibbs, editor of the Times, wrote of Mrs. Merkel, quote, "For asking more of her country than most politicians would dare, for standing firm against tyranny as well as expedience, and for providing steadfast moral leadership in a world where it's in short supply." Angela Merkel is Times Person of the Year. Now, she is only the 4th woman since 1927 to be named an individual winner outright, and the first in 29 years. The other individual women to win were Wallis Simpson in 1936, Queen Elizabeth II in 1952, and Corazon Aquino in 1986. We should all be surprised that it has taken 29 years to acknowledge a woman as a Person of the Year, and saddened that this list only includes 4. Not surprising is Donald Trump's response to the announcement. He tweeted, quote, "I told you at Time Magazine would never pick me as Person of the Year, despite being the big favorite. They picked the person who's ruining Germany." We should be saddened that such a person is viewed as a leadership contender. So I say to you, I challenge you to think about Marshall McLuhan's "The Medium is the Message" and what role you play in understanding society through the various social means. The role you will play in galvanizing your network to influence and affect positive change, and the role you can play in being a voice when it matters, and the role you play in ensuring the integrity of journalism and excellence in reporting. In today's fast-paced world, I challenge you to make your 140 characters impactful, your posts thoughtful and balanced, your blogs wise, and the complex dynamic of today's global village. At the University of Toronto Scarborough, we believe greatness goes beyond expectation, and we are a place where diversity fuels innovation. Be great, innovate, inquire, challenge, and let the medium be worthy of an extension of you. Thank you.